If you were a kid anytime during or after the 1980s, you probably already know who the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are. But maybe it's just now that you're wondering, where can you start? Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and we're back with another video. My first suggestion is probably the most obvious one because I've got the IDW series. This has been ongoing now for about 10 or so years. There's multiple spin-offs, mini-series and one-shots. There's even a few free comic book day issues that are important to the overall story, which is funny because of the fact that if you didn't buy it on free comic book day, that's not going to be free. But the reason why I'm recommending this one first is because of the fact that I think it's the most accessible regardless of your level of knowledge of TMNT. But during the last decade, something weird started happening because properties that were popular for kids during the 80s and 90s, stuff like He-Man, Transformers, and even of course Power Rangers, all got comic series that were meant for a more mature and older audience. However, the difference between those and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the fact that the heroes in a half shell started off in a comic series to begin with. So it felt like the next progression, and it was written by Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman, the latter of which was one of the original creators of the series. You can tell that there's so much passion and love for this universe that goes into every single issue that they print. The art's great throughout, and if you're somebody who hasn't really dealt with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since you were probably a kid and you watched one of the TV shows, I believe this would be the best option for you because you're going to get a great story that still respects the mythos that you probably knew from when you were growing up. Next up, in the first of many crossovers with other properties, I've got Batman TMNT. This is one of those series that is just straight up fun from start to finish. And as well, I remember when this got announced, I thought it was just going to be a quick cash grab and there wasn't really going to be any depth to it at all. But it's written by James Tynion IV, and as soon as you start reading it, you realise that there's so much in common between these two properties. It's also just great seeing how easily those two universes can cross over with each other. So you've got stuff like Bane also interacting with people like Shredder, you've got Krang, you've got the Joker, you've got Scarecrow, and there's just so much that goes into it that it's hard not to enjoy this if you're at least a baseline fan of this property. I don't think baseline was the right word there, but this is relatively short if it is that you don't want something that's as long as the IDW series, or it might be the case that you're a massive fan of Batman because of the fact that near enough half of everything that DC publishes is about the Dark Knight. Then I do think this would be something that you'd really enjoy, and I definitely recommend as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book that you should pick up. I believe it had 3 6-issue series in totals, and there might have been a few specials and things like that, but it is all getting compiled into one convenient omnibus that's coming out later this year, and you can already pre-order it from the channel sponsor Organic Price Books. They've got great packaging, fast shipping and amazing customer services, and if you use code WOOFWOOF you will get $2 off your order. And keep this a secret between us, but you can use that code as many times as you like. So why not treat yourself to this crossover series that really shouldn't have worked, but it somehow did. Another one that might seem a bit of an odd suggestion for new readers, but then again, that's the video. But it's TMNT The Last Ronin. Now what this effectively is the equivalent of something like Old Man Logan or Ragnarok, that you take the character and put them at pretty much the end of their journey. It was something that Eastman and Laird, who were the original creators of the series, had in mind from the very beginning. And so far this has been a really enjoyable read, and I'm not really sure if it would be the same for people that don't have the hype before this came out, because even I had betting odds on which turtle it was likely to be that would end up being The Last Ronin. But this has been a great journey so far. I hope it sticks a landing, and it hasn't really fallen into that trope of being completely gimmicky. It's telling a very mature story about loss and family, and about how the world that we once recognised will eventually disappear in front of us. So I do hope this finishes strong as well, because I really don't want to have to come back and edit this section of the video out if it is that it ends really badly. But with the pace it's had so far, I can't really see that happening, so I'd recommend this to people who maybe want a bit of a different, more post-apocalyptic story. Next up, I've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Urban Legends. Now I'll admit this is a bit of a weird pick because it's pretty much the equivalent to Marvel's What If or DC's Elseworlds. So it's not entirely based in continuity, even though I don't really think that continuity is a set thing and you can pretty much make up whatever you want. But a few years ago, when I was pretty much demolishing any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story that I could find, this was one that I picked up the first trade paperback for, and I remember really enjoying it. If you do want something that's not so wrapped up into the established timeline that's already been set before it, then this would be the one that I'd recommend for you. Next up, we've got yet another big one. You know I had to recommend this to you guys because it's Power Rangers TMNT. Yes, this is finally the crossover between these two teams that we deserve, not that absolute debacle that we got during Power Rangers in Space. I said during Batman TMNT that I felt like that was a crossover that maybe must have been just a gimmick and it wouldn't actually work, but Power Rangers TMNT was the one that as soon as I heard that it was announced, I knew this had to be good. And you know what? It is. Power Rangers single-handedly got me interested in superheroes, which then eventually led me into comics, so I pretty much show everything to them. So much so that I've already done a where to start on Power Rangers, and admittedly I did that when the channel was really young and a lot of people didn't watch it, and that video could do with some love. But this was a really fun, enjoyable story from start to finish. It's so creative, it's got so much passion and energy in every issue, and it's now led to Hasbro actually creating toys for the morphed up version of the Turtles. As good as I thought this series was going to be, it somehow managed to go a step beyond. And if it wasn't for the mainline Boom Studios series, I'd probably say that this is the best Power Rangers content that we've had in the last couple of years. That is unless Boom Studios finally gives me the opportunity to write the Gold Ranger miniseries that I've been asking for months. So if anybody's got an inside connection to Boom Studios, help your boy out, and yes, I will continue mentioning this in every single video that I can until I actually get that series. Now I'm going to be recommending to you one that when I explain it will sound like a book that I've already had on this list, but it's Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was a series that went on for quite a number of issues and has recently been reprinted into trade paperbacks. I've read quite a few of these and they're all pretty much one-shot stories that can just enhance your experience of these characters. From the couple of trade paperbacks that I've read, there are some hit and miss stories, but the ones that are good are really good. So with this pick, it's definitely for people who do want to be able to jump in and out of the series and don't need to read it all in one sitting. This would be ideal for you if it is that you're just looking to quickly scratch that itch that you might have for this series. Going in a slightly different direction now, I've got TMNT The Secret History of the Foot Clan. You may very well be somebody who doesn't like the main story that's going on, but you want to know about the details that surround the universe. The Secret History of the Foot Clan was a mini-series that wanted to build on the mythos of these often overlooked characters. You get to learn about the history, the secrets, but even though there wouldn't be too many people that I think would fall into this bracket that are also watching this video, but it could be the case that you're a little bit burned out with the turtles themselves, or maybe the personalities have just grated on you a little bit, and you want to slowly work your way back into that, then this would be the one that I'd recommend for you. But even more so than that, if it does sound like you're interested in learning more about the villains and the heroes, there was a TMNT Villains mini-series. Actually, it was called a micro-series because of the fact that each issue was pretty much a one-shot about a different character, but you may already very well know who your favourite character is, and it could be somebody like Krang, it could be somebody like Shredder, it might even be somebody like Baxter Stockman. What this series will do is give you a little story about each one of these characters. There's even lesser known villains that are brought into it towards the end of it, so you can really expand your knowledge whilst also getting a story that might interest you more than something that would just follow the hero. As well, this was written by Josh Williamson, who did The Flash during the Rebirth era, and he also wrote Nailbiter, a title that I really enjoyed when I reviewed it for last Halloween, and it just shows that he has got that experience following the bad guys of a story. He really knows how to make them the star of the book without ever really taking the limelight away from the main characters. So the benefit of this is that you could read all 8 or so of the issues and get 8 separate stories, or you could even just pick up one that you think might interest you and see if that's the book that you like. On a similar note, my next recommendation is going to be the mini-series for each individual character. Yes, this is something that TMNT has pretty much been doing since the very beginning with Eastman and Laird. It started off with a Raphael one-shot, and then you got one for each of the individual turtles. Splinter got a book, and even during the IDW series, this is a tradition that's carried on. So like I was just saying with the villain series, if it is that you already know who your favourite character is, but maybe you don't want to jump into a full team book, because you know, sometimes you don't want the dynamics of them all working together, and you just want to see that one person go at it on their own. But by person, I probably meant turtle. But why not have a little bit of a look into it and see if they've already done a story centered around the character that you really enjoy, and see how that works out for you. My personal favourite is Raphael. There's just something that I can relate to about a guy that's just always angry at pretty much everything. But I know there's a lot of people who love Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, then this is the entry route that I'd recommend for you. Now, if you've ever watched one of my videos before where I do some kind of list, you know that I am pretty much famous for cheating. But with where to start, I always want to make sure that I don't leave any stone unturned, and I can't deny the fact that the TV shows are a great introduction for anybody who's looking to start with TMNT. So you've got the most famous 80s series, which admittedly I went back and watched, and past the first couple of episodes it's pretty much just nostalgia. You've got the 2003 series, which I think is very underrated and often overlooked, and it's still enjoyable when I went back and watched it a few years ago. You've got Ninja Turtles The Next Mutation, which I honestly would not recommend at all. But you've also got the 2012 CGI series, which a lot of people wrote off because of the design of it. And this is a great show that I think a lot of people would enjoy if they gave it a proper chance. dance. And it's got a bizarrely catchy theme song that's got this rap part in the middle that you will pretty much find yourself going through at random parts of your day. You'll be folding your washing and you'll remind yourself that Leonardo's the leader in blue who does anything it takes to gaze ninjas through. Yeah, that's been my life for the last couple of years now. So yeah, the 2012 and the 2003 animated series are ones that I definitely recommend if maybe it is that you've never read a comic before. Next up, I've got TMNT Ghostbusters and TMNT Usagi Yojimbo. I'm pretty much lumping these into the same category because I feel like they do a similar job, but it could very well be the case that you only like reading independent comics and maybe Usagi Yojimbo or Ghostbusters is something that you've read before. You might like something that's based more in samurai culture, or you might want something that's featuring a more sci-fi premise. Either one of these picks I do think would work best for you, and it might be the case that you haven't even read the Ghostbusters comics yet because of the fact that the books have gone really ridiculously out of print, and yeah, I'm still disappointed about that one. But you might even not know who Usagi Yojimbo is, but with these crossover teams, what they often do is a good way of introducing the characters. So if you're coming from just one fan base or the other, you will know who the other team is by the end of it. But what I am saying is that these crossover series don't have a lot of time to really give you the origin story of these, so they just tell you the most important parts. I don't think that made sense, but I'm still going to keep it on the list. We're coming into my last two picks now, and I've got a complete curveball, but hear me out before you heavily dislike this video or leave me some kind of all capital lettered comment down below. But I've got Daredevil. Yes, I know what you're thinking if you've ever watched one of my videos before. Is it possible for you to just do a video without recommending Daredevil all the time? The answer to that is no, but I've actually got a valid reason with this one. Because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was originally created as a bit of a tongue-in-cheek parody of Daredevil. That's why where Matt Murdock has the hand, the Ninja Turtles have the Foot Clan. And during the 80s, Daredevil was going through this transitional phase where he's becoming a mature, darker character for an older audience. And it's all pretty much thanks to Frank Miller, and that's the series that I'd recommend jumping on if this is the way that you do eventually want to start reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I said, this is a complete curveball, and if there's one person that would probably want to start reading these characters as a result of Daredevil, I'd be surprised. But in my effort to leave no stone unturned, I have to recommend the inspiration that got this team started in the first place. And if you are interested in reading Daredevil, I've already done a where to start on him. But this last pick should be an obvious one to anybody who knows a little bit about the Ninja Turtles, because I'm going to recommend the original series by Eastman and Laird. I've referenced this countless times already throughout this video, but I absolutely love this series. This is one of the only teams, one of the only comic book characters where I would actually recommend hand on heart the original series that started it off. Because it's not Silver Age storytelling. I've read this a few years ago and it still reads like quite a modern run. It's pretty mad, and whether you go for the black and white originals or you go for the color editions, you are still going to have a great experience with this series. It's so ridiculously dark and over the top violent, and it just tells a really enjoyable story. It's clear that they were still trying to figure out these characters, and at points it does feel like each turtle doesn't have their own personality, but you also get to see how they developed into being individuals, and I think that's what makes this series great. Shredder's a complete badass. You've got the introduction of pretty much all the villains that you've come to know and love now. The art style is phenomenal and is something that I really enjoy, and I just like that this is something that we still have access to now. Like I said, I'm not even telling you to buy the full thing, but if you can just find the first issue to read, then see exactly what I'm talking about and ask yourself if it hooks you. But I always say in where to start, no matter what series it is, as long as it manages to find a way to get you reading more comics, then that is the book that you should be starting with. These are just my picks that I'd recommend, and I'm sure that there's going to be others in the comment section below. If you could do me a massive favour, share this video where you can so that we can hopefully get more people invested in comics, and also because I'm trying to get this channel back on its feet and that would greatly help. But guess that's the video, so stay safe and stay mad all you dogs. Woof woof! See you at the next video.